الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين. Alhamdulillah. Welcome back to our series, The Woman's Intuition. Sorry we've been gone for so long. Had to take some time to, recover and concentrate on my own personal life, but alhamdulillah, never forgetting the work that we've already done and the work that we will continue to do, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. For those of you who have been waiting for, the next episode of this series, ahlan wa sahlan, welcome you to the next episode. If you go back to the episode that we talked about, or the previous series, we talked about number 3, where we kind of segued into a discussion. The Women's Intuition series initially started off talking about things that women, kind of do wrong, or not necessarily wrong, but from a woman's standpoint in their marriage, that kind of brings turmoil into the marriage or into the relationship. For those of you who are not Muslim, who are not married, that are, currently in a relationship but not necessarily married, it could also apply to you as well. So that's what we initially started talking about, and then we kind of segued into something that I hope has some benefit, and that is 5 ways that women, not all women, most women, many women, destroy their marriages. And just to kind of recap off of that, we started off talking about the woman overselling herself. That was number 1. That women tend to oversell themselves and at the beginning of their relationships. You sell yourself as this woman who is willing to do whatever, you will do whatever it takes, to have him. And as I said before, most men are takers and not necessarily givers. And when you put yourself in that situation where you're basically saying, I will be willing to do this, I will be willing to do that, you're overselling yourself. And that's a mistake. That's a mistake. As I said, many times women are not conscious of the fact that, that by overselling yourself, you're putting yourself in a very vulnerable situation, because then the man can blame everything on you. He can say it's all your fault. You said that you were going to do this. You said that you were going to do that, and then it also puts you in a difficult situation as a woman, because when you come off too perfect at the beginning of your relationship, then you are setting a bar of expectation for yourself that's going to come back and haunt you, because now you got to defend yourself, right? When you come off at the beginning of your relationship as perfect, you don't make any mistakes, you got this whole relationship thing down, you put yourself in a very difficult situation, because now you got to defend yourself. So you come off as perfect. It's always his fault. It's always his mistake. It's always his, lack of, competence. You got to defend yourself, because this is the image that you created of yourself from the very beginning. You painted yourself as perfect. Instead of just coming in saying, hey, listen, flaws and all, here I am, this is who I am, I would be willing to, make whatever changes, and, I would be willing to make whatever adjustments I have to make. But no, you don't come off like that. You come off as perfect, and it ends up, haunting you later on. So you don't leave any room for yourself to be flawed. You don't leave any room for yourself to be, to have mistakes. The second woman's intuition, or the second reason we said, was you undersell yourself. You undersell yourself, and we said that that's awesome, Sister Adrian. That's awesome. Abdul Ali Ahmed Rahman. Very good. So sometimes women undersell themselves. They come off as desperate. They just want to be in a relationship. They just want to be, married. As I said before, that, when you come off like this, and that you're broken, and when it all said and done, you end up accepting whatever is offered, because, and this is something that we're going to talk about today, believing that you are deserving of whatever the person offers you in a relationship. Number 3, We talked about underappreciating the good guy. All right. Underappreciating the good guy, that, this is a test of your gratitude to God, that, you ask God to bless you with a good man, to bless you with a good relationship or whatever. And then when you have this good man, right, you underappreciate him. You don't appreciate him. He can't do anything right. He's only as good as his last good deed. And you'll pay for that later on, because once you separate from this guy who you believe doesn't meet your standards, right? Women always talking about their standards, and this guy is, beneath me, and, I can do better than this. And yeah, you probably can do better than that. Understand that when you make that comment, I can do better than this, you will eat those words, man, because you probably will do better than that. But doing better doesn't actually mean that you have better. Right? Doing better in a relationship doesn't actually mean that you have better. I've already done lectures for the men. I did 10 consecutive lectures for the men about the same thing. Please go back and review. You can go subscribe to my YouTube page, www.rawdah, RAWDAH, on YouTube. Please go to my YouTube page, www.rawdah on YouTube. That is my personal YouTube page. So most of the lectures, if not all of them, you will find them on YouTube. All right. So please subscribe, and as well as share the information with other people as well. All right. Some women, underappreciate the good guy. And then you pay for it in your next relationship. So now we move on to number 4 of the 5 ways that women destroy their marriages. And this is, you guys are really not going to like me after this, but, hey, it's all good. Get in line. But, my job, as I said to you, sisters, is I'm not exposing your faults as much as I am exposing you to your faults. We want you to correct yourself. We want you to correct yourself. All right. This is not, women bashing. We don't need any, pro-feminists, on here, oh, he's bashing women. I'm not bashing women. I'm just holding the mirror up to you and allow you to see yourself. Now, if you refuse to accept, the image that is coming back to you, then that's your journey. That's your struggle, but at the same token, I'm not here to bash anybody. You know what I'm saying? I'm not here to make any woman feel bad. I'm here to hold a mirror up to you. In the Islamic community, I'm not tooting my own horn. I'm just saying I haven't really seen anything, I haven't seen this approach used for brothers and sisters to take a deeper look at themselves, right? No, none of us are perfect. We're all flawed, man. We're all flawed. The men's errors are corrected. Don't say who corrects the man's faults. The man's faults we have addressed them. I have been very hard on the men. Throughout the years. If you look at my lectures, my khutbahs, my, workshops, I have been very hard on the men. Please don't say that, because that's dismissive. Who corrects the man's faults? The thing about it is that this is the whole purpose of us having this discussion. The man cannot make those faults, sister, if you don't invite him into your life. You know what I mean? Like, he can't make those faults if you didn't give him the space to make those faults in. And that's one of the things we're going to talk about today. You teach people how to treat you. It's not always the woman's fault. Don't use generalities. That's not fair. When we're speaking, don't use generalities. Don't say it's always the women's fault, but sometimes it is the woman's fault. Just in the spirit of being humble, sometimes it is your fault. Sometimes it is your fault. But but this is not we're not fault finding. You know what I mean? We're not fault finding. But the thing about it, as women, a lot of times you complain, but you don't realize that you teach people how to treat you. And if a man is treating you a certain way, then you have to ask yourself, what did you do to give this man the impression that that was okay? You teach people how to treat you. And this is one of the things that we're going to talk about today. So, alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen, wa salatu wa salam ala ashrafil anbiya'i wal mursaleen wa ala alihi wa ashabihi ajma'in. So in the last Women's Intuition, we talked about underappreciating the good guy. Now we're talking about settling for the bad guy. There's some women, unfortunately, who have made a lifetime habit out of settling for the worst possible man that is out there. You look back at your life and you say, you have settled so many times for the wrong guy. And then you have to ask yourself, why? Why do you keep ending up with these guys who don't appreciate you, who dismiss you, who, you know what I mean? Like, how do you keep ending up with these guys? Let's explore that. So if underappreciating the good guy was a test of your gratitude to God, to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then settling for the bad guy is a test of your self-worth. You understand? If underappreciating the bad guy, if underappreciating the good guy is a test of your gratitude to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you ask God for a good guy, he gave him to you, and you just totally dismiss that. So if underappreciating the good guy is a test of your gratitude, then settling for the bad guy is a test of your self-worth. Absolutely. Many women ignore red flags. Many women ignore red flags. Sisters, I'm gonna need you to take your crown off for a second and just sit it right there on your dining room table or your bedroom. You know, I need you to take your crown off. You're still a queen. I'm not taking that from you. But right now, I need you to take your queen crown off for a second, and I just need you to be regular and hear me out. All right? I need you to take your crown off for a second, and I just need you to be a regular person and hear me out. Because a lot of you sit from this place, well, I'm a queen. He not talking to me. This don't apply to me. Nah, it applies to you. It applies to you for sure. Take your crown off for a second. Lay it right there. It's not going anywhere. You're still a queen. Nobody's taking that from you. But for right now, you need to put that down for a second. And we need to have a grown adult conversation right now. Crown stays on. We'll just lean it to the side a little bit so it doesn't put too much pressure on your frontal lobe. We want you to hear and process everything. All right. Some women ignore red flags at the initial stages of the relationship, right? Hoping that the man will somehow change because of his love for her, or she will be able to change him because of her love for him. She's a hopeless romantic. All right. I'll say that again. Some women ignore red flags at the beginning of the relationship because they believe that if the man loves her, he's going to change. Right? And or because she loves him and he sees how much he loves her, right? That he will change. Right? So you ignore the red flags. You see the red flags all over. You see that he can be impulsive sometimes. You see that he can be very argumentative sometimes. You see that he has, he can be, very verbally disrespectful sometimes. You see all of that at the very beginning. But you ignore it because you feel like when we fall in love or when he realizes how much I love him, he'll change. He'll change. And it's unfortunate because love does not sustain a marriage. Marriage sustains love. Marriage sustains your love. Love does not sustain the marriage. Sister Gulmaki, mashallah, she said, my crown was never on as I am humble servant of Allah. My crown is waiting in Jannah for me. Allahu Akbar. I hear that, man. I hear that, mashallah. Allahu Akbar. Very humbling. She said, my crown was never on. It's waiting for me in Jannah. Mashallah. So, the thing about it is that we put a lot of unrealistic expectations on love. We put a lot of unrealistic expectations on love. We believe that love is going to change this person. Love is going to change that person. That love doesn't change the person who doesn't understand it and doesn't appreciate it. If you're in a relationship with a man and he can see that you as a woman, you love him, that is not going to make him change his behavior if he doesn't understand love or if he doesn't appreciate it. How is he going to, In Islam, Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said, "La yu'minu ahadukum hatta yuhibba li akhihi ma yuhibbu li nafsi." He said, none of you truly believes until he loves for his brother what he loves for himself. There has to be self-love first. There has to be self-love first. You cannot love for somebody what you don't actually love for yourself. So if the man doesn't understand love, if he doesn't appreciate love, then how can you expect that your love for him is going to make him love for you? Because he doesn't love for himself. He doesn't know what love is. He doesn't value love. He doesn't appreciate love. Your relationship with him is not based upon love. You understand? Your relationship with that brother is not based upon love. He said that none of you truly believe until you love for your brother what you love for yourself, meaning there has to be self-love first. That I cannot love for you what I love for myself if I don't love myself. You guys understand? The Prophet ﷺ's words were so profound that, decades later, what I'm saying, like hundreds of years later, we're still, dissecting and unraveling, like the profoundness of his words. He said that none of you truly believe until you love for your brother what you love for yourself. So if you as a woman are in a relationship with a man and you're believing that the more I show him I love him, he's eventually going to change, right? He's not going to change. Your love for him is not going to make him change, because if he doesn't value love, if he doesn't understand love, he's not going to respond to your love the way that you want him to. The Prophet ﷺ was very clear about that. None of you truly believe until you want for your brother what you love for yourself. Meaning, if you don't love for you, then you can't possibly love for somebody else, because you don't have that. The initial love does not register. The love doesn't register with the person. That's number one. So women will stay with the guy who doesn't appreciate them because they believe that this is all they deserve. Some women will stay and settle for a guy that they know completely does not love them, or loves them but doesn't show that he loves them, underappreciates them, devalues them, and she'll stay with him. And as a kid, I was always puzzled by this. I could never understand. Sometimes you see a woman with a guy and you're like, man, she could do better than that. Why is she with him? She could do better than that. In her mind, she believes that this is what she deserves. She deserves a bad guy. She deserves a bad relationship. Why? Because they have such low standards. And if you have low standards in a relationship and those low standards are being met, why would you ever want anything more than that? Right? Your standards are being met. So from the outside, the person is looking at you like, but you can do better than that. But in the inside, your standards are so low that the man, the bad guy that everybody else sees, is actually meeting your low standards. So there is no desire for you to leave him. You follow me? There's no desire for you to leave him because your low standards are actually being met. You're content because your standards are so low. And what I mean by low standards, some women are in a relationship because they just want a man to provide for them. And this is, for a lot of the Muslim women, a lot of the Muslim women on here, you have such low standards. You're in a relationship because you want the guy to provide for you. That's my right. And you get that. He provides for you. You got a roof over your head. You got clothes on your back, food in your refrigerator, and that's all you got. And some of you are okay with that. Some of you are okay with that. And you parade around the Islamic community, I'm married, flaunting your ring or whatever the case may be. But in the reality of it is that you are so unhappy. You are miserable. But these are the standards that you set. And so he met your low standards. So you don't see a need. You don't see a need to leave him and move on because your low standards are already being met. Right? So you have low standards and you don't expect much from this man that you are in a relationship with. You don't expect much from him. All you expect is for your bills to be paid. You don't expect him to engage you emotionally. You don't expect him to do this or to do that. You know what I mean? Like, you can't help who you fall in love with. Love is one thing. Love is an emotion. right? And love is controlled or governed by common sense. Yeah, you can. Love is governed by common sense. God gave you, in the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala always refers to the heart as the intellect. The heart is synonymous with intellect. In Islam, I'm saying as Muslims, for those who don't, necessarily follow any particular religion, right? For those who don't really follow any particular religion, then I don't know what your navigation is. I don't know what your manual is and how you're guiding yourself through life. For those of us who are Muslim and we have a book, we have an example, prophetic example from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, then yeah, love is one thing, is an emotion, but that love is governed by common sense. It's not blind love. That's not what we're into as Muslims. I mean, if you are blindly in love with people, then why is there a need to put God first? Why is there a need to follow a book revealed by God? Why is there a need? Why is there a need for that? You understand what I'm saying? Like in our religion, we're taught to put God first. And then when putting God first, that means that the bulk of the love that you have is already being used in your love and your relationship with God. So that means that the love that you have for other human beings, be it a child, be it a spouse, doesn't matter who it is filtered through the love that you already have for God. But if you don't have any love for God and you start off with your love of human beings, then that's a sad state to be in, because that means that whatever love and emotion you have left, right, is being filtered to God. You understand? It's the opposite way around for us as Muslims. It's the opposite way around, which is why the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said, "Law kuntu muttakhidan ahadan khalilan latakhadtu Abu Bakr khalilan, lakin Allah ittakhadhani khalilan." He said that if I was going to take to someone to be an intimate friend, I would have taken Abu Bakr to be an intimate friend. But God has already chosen me as an intimate friend, just as he chose Prophet Ibrahim to be an intimate friend. So I suffice myself with the brotherhood, the brotherhood of Islam, and my companionship with him. Because Allah has not made for any one man two hearts. We only have one heart. You understand? So when you love God first and your love is there first, then whatever, of the human beings, of the creation that you love, that you love is filtered through, your relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You follow me? So they have low standards and do not expect much from the man they are in a relationship with. And this can be because your expectations are being met. So you don't require anything more, because the man you are in a relationship with, you don't expect much from the person. You don't expect much from the person. All right. You don't expect much from him. So the thing is that sometimes when a woman is in a relationship with a bad guy, a guy who doesn't value them, a guy who doesn't appreciate them, right? A lot of times what they do is they don't have any expectations for them. So they'll continue to be in a relationship with that person. All right. They'll continue to be in a relationship with that person because they don't expect much from them. But when they're in a relationship with the good guy, they expect so much from them. Right? You're going to pay the rent on time. You're going to do this. You're going to do that. And you get to use the religion, in Islam, for the Muslim women, you get to use the religion to your, the religion is there at your beck. You get to use the religion to, to kind of justify the expectations that you put on them. So it's like, I pay my rent on the first. So you're going to put that on him because he's a good guy. But when you know that you're married to a guy who going to give you the money whenever they decide to give you the money, you don't make an issue out of it because your expectations of him are already low. You don't expect much from him. But the guy that is a good guy, right? You push him to the limit. He has to give 100%. But the guy that doesn't amount to much, you want everything. You don't expect anything from him. And whatever little bit he contributes to the marriage or to the relationship, you accept it. Sometimes women suffer from what is called positive illusions. Kenneth, I want you to please hear me out. If you cannot be respectful, then I'm going to block you. That's just the bottom line. If this is, you don't religion is BS and all this other stuff that you're interrupting the people that are here trying to learn. So if you cannot be respectful, I'm going to stop the recording. I'm going to block you, and then I'll start the recording again. So I would humbly ask you to please keep your personal, your personal views to yourself, and allow people that are on here that's trying to benefit, allow them to benefit. Okay. So you have some women who suffer from positive illusions of their spouse. What does that mean? Right? Positive illusions means that you begin to see, or you tend to see, the positive things in your spouse, in your husband or your man. All right. You tend to see the positive in them more than you see the negative, because number one, the positive traits that you see in the man, everyone's telling you, you should leave him, you could do better than him, and you're always defending him. You're always saying how positive he is, and, bringing up the positive traits. And one of the reasons that you do that is because you suffer from positive illusions of your spouse, meaning you only see the good that they do. You don't see the verbal abuse. You don't see the dismissiveness. You don't see any of that. The emotional unavailability. You don't see any of that. Let me just block him. Okay. He's blocked. No need to engage. He's blocked. All right. He's blocked. No need to engage. All right. So, all right. So positive illusions is where you begin to see the good in the person and your spouse, overlooking the negative about them that everyone constantly keeps, is baffled why you stay with the person. And the reason why you have these positive illusions is because the traits that your husband, or the traits that the man that you are in a relationship or you are involved with, the traits that he displays, of the positive traits, are traits that you have as well, and they resonate with you. So when you see your spouse, you're seeing the positive in them, while everyone else is seeing the negative in them. And you are only seeing the positive because the positive traits that he has resonate with you, because these are the same qualities and traits that you have. All right. It's like similar to watching a movie and identifying with the bad guy, right? You identify with the bad guy. Yeah, you ever wonder why a woman is in a relationship with a guy and, someone is telling you, like, you should leave this guy. This guy is not good for you, whatever the case may be. And the woman keeps saying, no, but he's this and he does that. Well, at least he does this and he takes me out and he does this for me and he does that for me. She has positive illusion syndrome. She only sees the positive in him because the positive resonates with her, because these are qualities that she has. And it's the Stockholm syndrome. That's the actual term for it. Is being able to identify with someone even though the person is a bad person. You understand what I'm saying? This is what Stockholm syndrome is. It's like you watching a movie, right? And you see the bad guy and you begin to identify with the bad guy because you sympathize with the bad guy, because you kind of look at the situation that he's in, the circumstance that he's in, and you start to make excuses for the circumstance that he's in. You understand what I'm saying? This is what women do when they're in relationships with dudes that are no good. Bad guys, you know what I mean? Like these type of guys, and they always making excuses for them. And you're like, yo, girl, you're crazy. It's not that she's crazy. She's identifying with the positive in him because that's what resonates with her. You understand? You suffer from the positive illusion syndrome, so all you see is the good in him, right? And so, when you're watching a movie and you begin to identify with the bad guy in the movie, right? It's almost like you see him as a victim of circumstance. Women that are in a relationship with bad guys, they're like, well, his mom did this to him. His dad ignored him. He did this or he did that. He grew up like this. And you'll start making so many different excuses for him. You know, he had a bad rap. He just came home from jail. He just did this, or this just happened to him. And you begin to empathize and sympathize with him, you know, considering him a victim of circumstance. And this is called Stockholm Syndrome. And women have it in their relationships very bad. You have it very bad because all you see is the good in the person. You know, it's like you come to him for counseling and he's verbally abusive. And, you know, yeah, you are to look at the good, but you're also to look at the bad. You're to weigh the bad against the good and weigh the good against the bad. Not to just see the good, that's it. The man is, you know, physically abusive to you and all you're going to see is the good. You got to be kidding me. Come on, like, we got to use Islam with common sense, man. Stockholm Syndrome. That's what it's called. You got to weigh the bad against the good. Not, oh, aren't we supposed to only see the good? No, then this is self-delusional behavior. You're self-delusional. If you believe that you're in a relationship with a man and the only thing that you're supposed to see is the good that he does. And so he's verbally abusive. He's physically abusive. You understand what I'm saying? And you're supposed to just totally overlook that. No, come on. You weigh that against how in the world do you decide what your threshold is? How in the world do you decide whether you should stay or go, except that you are weighing the bad of the person against the good of the person? The Prophet ﷺ told us, he said, لا يفرق مؤمن مؤمنة إذا كره منها خلقا رضي منها آخر. He said that no Muslim man should hate a believing female. No believing man should hate a believing female. If he looks at a quality of her that he dislikes, then let him look at the qualities. Let him weigh that against the qualities that he does like. You understand? So there's a weighing process here. Not that we're just seeing the good and only the good in the person, but we're weighing the good of the person against the bad of the person. Right? So this is called Stockholm Syndrome. This is where the person have strong emotional ties that develop between two people where one is intermittently harassed, beaten, threatened, abused by the other. The sympathetic sentiments that captives feel towards their captors. In the case of relationships, it's the sympathy that a woman feels towards a man who is constantly abusing her, right? This is the sympathetic sentiments that a woman has towards a man who is constantly abusing her, right? And one of the reasons that women find themselves in this type of situation is because of AWS, Abusive Woman Syndrome, Abused Woman Syndrome, right? And I'm using these letters to kind of help us make sense of a lot of these things are actually mentioned in psychology. Yes, absolutely. I didn't just make some of these things. I didn't just make them up. Yes. So there's what's called Abusive Woman Syndrome. And this is the type of woman who has a history of abusive relationships starting from childhood. This is where we get deep. So now we're diving a little deeper. And as the Arabs, they say, من لا يحسن السباحة يوشك أن يغرق. That he who does not know how to swim will probably drown. He who does not know how to swim will most likely drown. So stay with me as we go a little deeper in this. We're talking about having the positive illusions. We're talking about the Stockholm Syndrome, even in the relationship where all you're identifying with the bad guy, right? So now we're talking about Abusive Woman Syndrome. Many women, this is Abusive Woman Syndrome, is where a woman has had a string of abusive relationships that she's been involved in her life. And this is what has created what is called a subconscious programming. All right. Abusive Woman Syndrome is a woman who has been in a multitude of abusive relationships throughout her life. She's been through a ton of abusive relationships in her life, either because of things that she has witnessed, right? She's witnessed her mother. She's witnessed her grandmother. She's witnessed, and believe it or not, elderly people, elderly women are the most abused in terms of relationships. If believe it or not, we tend to think that older people have the most healthy and the greatest relationships. Believe it or not, Where you will find domestic abuse a lot of times is in relationships with our grandparents. Why? Because as we get older, especially for men, as we get older, we start to lose a lot of our, competency in a lot of realms. So a lot of the grandmothers that we go to see, we're going to see grandma, we're going over grandma's house. A lot of times grandma is in a very oppressive situation, believe it or not. And that is because as men get older, they start to lose a grip on the things that they used to be very competent in. You know what I mean? Yes. Intergenerational trauma. Very good. Very good, Sister Sasha. Very good. Right? Because as we get older as men, we are no longer competent in the things that we used to be competent in. And as a result of that, the only other person in the home with our grandfather is our grandmother. And so she takes a beating, from him because he's frustrated, because he can't, do this anymore. He can't do that anymore. And the only person to take his frustration out on is grandma. Believe it or not. Believe it or not, we tend to think that, grandmoms do a great job of masking their pain. They do a great job. And I'm saying this from my own personal life, my own grandmother, who's, endured a lot, from my deceased grandfather. May Allah have mercy upon him, who took his shahada actually on his deathbed. But believe it or not, this abusive woman syndrome happens because of women who have been in abusive relationships throughout their life. And that can either be through things that she has witnessed. She's witnessed her mom. She's witnessed her aunt. She's witnessed grandma. She's witnessed other women in her lives go through, traumatizing events. Or she has been in a slew of, abusive relationships herself. Right? So what that does is that she now becomes a victim of subconscious programming. Subconscious programming tends to make her believe that she is deserving of whatever negative relationship she finds herself in. Because subconsciously she has been programmed to believe that she does not deserve a good man. She does not deserve a good relationship. So she settles for any situation that comes along because subconsciously she has been programmed to believe that this is what she deserves. This is what she has been destined to be. You follow me? This is what she is destined to be in a verbally abusive relationship, to a physically abusive relationship. She is destined to be in this situation because of the psychological programming. And so from the outside looking in, we're saying, why does this woman stay with him? Why is she still with him? Why can't she find someone else? But we don't understand the psychological, programming and the conditioning that has been done to her throughout her entire life. That has put her in this situation where we now see her in a situation where she has settled. She is settled. She now believes that this is her destiny. She is supposed to be in an abusive situation. There's nothing else for her. And so she starts to have a negative self-image of herself. She starts to believe that she deserves this. And in some instances, if you go deeply into verbally and physically abusive, domestically violent situations, you'll find women making excuses for why the man beats her. It was my fault. I deserved it. I did this. I did that. You understand? You guys follow me? So it's almost like, she's basically telling herself that she deserves this type of treatment. All right. And the sad thing about this is that even if she was in a relationship with a good guy, she would, she would sabotage it, believing that she is deserving of less than a good man. Even if she was in a relationship with a good guy, she would sabotage it. I've heard women with my own ears say, I can't be in a relationship with a good guy. I would break him. I would destroy him. And some of you do. Some of you do. There are a lot of Muslim men. There are a lot of men in the world that are terrified of going into a relationship with another woman because they have been scarred. You understand what I'm saying? that, what do you do when you're a good guy? Then you have to set standards for yourself. Every relationship has to have a threshold. You have to have a threshold. You have to say to yourself, once I reach this point, I'm done. I can no longer exhaust myself in this situation. Even if this particular woman was in a relationship, we pull her out of that situation that she's in and put her in a healthy relationship, she would sabotage it. She would sabotage the relationship because she believes that she is deserving of this situation. Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. And this is similar to, and we have like a blueprint for this in the Quran. This is similar to what Fir'aun did to Bani Israel. He oppressed their souls. He spoiled their nature. When your nature has been spoiled, your fitrah, right? Your fitrah is fasida. Your fitrah, your natural intrinsic nature, the good nature in which God created you with, has been spoiled by personal experiences or things that you have witnessed growing up. When you have been spoiled, you will self-sabotage because your nature has been spoiled. So it's like when Prophet Moses rescued Bani Israel from Fir'aun, they saw Fir'aun drowned right in front of him, right in front of them. And then what do? They go and they worship a calf. They melt all of their gold down and they begin to worship a calf. Even after. And then, not only that, the whole entire journey of Musa with Bani Israel is almost like he could not get them to be obedient to him because their nature was spoiled. They were spoiled. Not spoiled in a good way, meaning they were corrupted. Their nature, their good nature was corrupted. So when a woman is a victim of abusive woman syndrome, meaning this programming, this psychological programming that you are doing to yourself by telling yourself that this is the standard for you. This is what you deserve. You deserve less than. You deserve to be oppressed. You deserve to be abused. You deserve this. When you start to tell yourself that, even if you are in a good relationship, you are going to sabotage it. You are going to sabotage it. She has to learn how to reverse this mindset. You have to learn as women, how to reverse this mindset. So if there are any of you who have been victims of, this psychological programming, this self-sabotaging mentality that tells you that if I find myself in a good situation, I have to destroy it because I am deserving of a bad situation. And there are tons of sisters, man, tons of Muslim women, tons of women in general who self-sabotage. Go back and look at yourself. Go back and look at relationships that you have had in the past, that you have self-sabotaged, that you have destroyed yourself because you believe that you're supposed to be in a situation that is offering you less than that. You believe it. It's like you in a relationship with a good guy. He don't like to argue with you, but you're constantly starting arguments. And even when he tries to put the fire out, he's walking around the house with a fire extinguisher. Every time you light a fire, he putting it out, right? There's a ton of men in relationships who literally walk around with fire extinguishers because they have a woman who is self-sabotaging. And if she's left to herself, she's going to destroy her own relationship. You got to it's like a person who's a drunk driver. You got to take the keys from them because if you don't take the keys from them, they're going to kill themselves and everybody in the car with them. That is a woman who is self-sabotaging in her relationship. She is going to destroy her and everybody in the relationship along with her because she believes that this situation is wrong and that she's supposed to be in an abusive situation. She is supposed to be in a situation where she is receiving less than. All right. Similar to Bani Israel, who Fir'aun, through the years of oppression, years of Fir'aun oppressing the souls of Bani Israel, when even they were freed from Fir'aun, Musa freed them. Allah drowned Fir'aun right in front of them. Allah gave them manna wa salwa, gave them manna and quails, gave them food, right? And everything that Allah tried to accommodate them with, everything that Allah tried to do to make their lives, their journey After what they experienced with Fir'aun, everything that Allah gave them, right? They told Musa, "Lan nasbira ala ta'amin wahida." We can't be patient with one type of food. Call on your Lord to give us this and to give us that and to give us what the earth produces of cucumbers and onions and this and this. And then, then when Allah gave them that, they still became disobedient. They said, "Oh Musa, can you do this? Call on your Lord to do this." And Allah gave them that. And even every time Allah tried to accommodate them, they increased in their disobedience. Similar to a woman who is a self-sabotaging, abused woman, psychologically programmed to believe that she is to receive less than what a queen is supposed to receive in her relationship, and she sabotages every relationship she's in until she ends up in a dead-end relationship with a domestic abuser, whether verbally or physically, believing that this is her rightful place. This is where I belong. And you're her friend trying to pull her out of that situation. Girl, you need to wake up. Girl, this guy is no good for you. Girl, you can do better than that. And she's telling you, pulling you on the other end, no, this is where I belong. This is where I belong. This is where I'm supposed to be. I self-sabotaged every relationship I was in only to end up in this dead-end relationship because this is where I am supposed to be. Talk about psychological programming. Talk about psychological programming. Well, that's where the psychological programming come from. Is that you don't even know that you're doing anything wrong. You see this type of stuff as normal. That's exactly what we're talking. That's the programming. This is the programming. So in the spirit of being solution oriented, let's talk about how we can reverse this mentality. Settling for this guy, settling for this type of man. Let's talk about how we can reverse this mentality, because it can be reversed. You guys following me so far? All right. So one of the ways to reverse this process, I'm going to give you 5 ways to help you reverse this process. So if you are a victim of this, you are a victim of this, subconscious programming. If you are a victim of abusive woman syndrome, all of which has made you believe that you are deserving of less in a relationship. You have accepted less than normal, less than stellar, behavior and interactions in your relationship. Let me help you to reverse that mentality. Okay. Number 1 is standing in your authentic truth. I've said this a million times, and I will continue to say it until you guys get it. Standing in your authentic truth. When you own who you truly are, no one can use it against you. Men who take advantage of women do so because the woman has given him the keys to do so. Men who take advantage of women do so because the woman has given him the keys to do so. You've given him the keys. You've handed him the keys to oppress you. No one can make you feel inferior without your consent. You understand? No one can make you feel inferior without your consent. No one can make you feel inferior without your consent, right? Men try to manipulate women into thinking, some men try to manipulate women into thinking that they are somehow wired incorrectly. When God was manufacturing you, he mixed some of the wires up. So I'm going to come in and I'm going to fix you. And what do you do as a woman? You give him the keys. You say, fix me, fix my life. Abdullah, Muhammad, Abdurrahman, Abdullah, fix my life. You've given him the keys to fix your life. You've let him manipulate you into thinking that God somehow wired you the wrong way. You are somehow wired incorrectly. Turn around, let me unscrew the back of you and let me rewire you. God don't make mistakes, man. And if we have some wires crossed, it's not God's fault. It's because of some of the trauma that we have experienced in our lives. And when you own that, you say that, hey, I've been traumatized in my life. This is who I am. Love me or leave me alone. Take me or leave me. You understand what I'm saying? Like there is no rewiring me. There is no fixing me. I am who I am. I am who I am. But somehow men, tend to manipulate you into thinking that you're wired incorrectly and that they're going to fix you. Stand in your authentic truth by accepting the fact that you are flawed, but you're perfectly flawed. You're flawed, but you're still perfect. You're flawed exactly the way God wanted you to be. The Prophet ﷺ, he said that إن المرأة خلقت من ضلع وإن أعوج شيء في الضلع أعلاها. He said that the woman was created from the rib. The woman, Eve, was created from the rib of Adam. And the most crooked, the most curved part of the rib is the top part. He said, "In istamta'ta biha, istamta'ta biha wa biha iwaj." If you're going to draw any benefit from the woman, then you're going to do so while she is crooked. God don't make mistakes. You are not wired incorrectly. If the man is going to draw any benefit from you, he's going to do so while you are who you are. He said, وَإِنْ ذَهَبْتَ تُقِيمَهَا كَسَرْتَهَا وَكَسْرُهَا طَلَاقُهَا. He said, if you go and you try to straighten the rib, you're going to break it. You go and you try to straighten the rib, you're going to break it. You understand? There's nothing wrong with you. There's nothing wrong with you. Yes, we all have room for improvement, personal improvement, but that has to start within. That cannot start without. You have to be able to see your flaws for yourself and decide that I am going to fix that about me. No one outside of you can make you do that. We can learn how to readjust our lens and see you for who you are, but we cannot change you. Love does not change a person. Stop thinking that because you love your husband, that is going to force him to accept you as you are, that is going to force him to change his behavior. It's not. But your love of yourself should help you change yourself. Stand in your authentic space, meaning acknowledge that you are flawed, but you're still perfect. Acknowledge that you are broken, but not defeated. Acknowledge that you have some insecurities, but you are not insecure. You have some insecurities, but you are not insecure. Acknowledge that you are vulnerable, but you're still valuable. You're vulnerable, but you still bring a whole lot to the table. You're valuable. And to acknowledge that even though you are unappreciated, you are a jewel of the highest grade. Even though that you are unappreciated, you are a jewel of the highest grade. Understand? These are things that you have to tell yourself to reverse the process. To reverse the process. It's standing in your authentic space, not how some women believe I'm perfect. You know what I mean? Like I am who I am. I'm not going to change it. No. That's not what standing in your authentic space means. Standing in your authentic space is meaning owning who and what you are, so no one has to use that against you. No one can come to you and say, you are flawed. Let me fix you. You say, no, I am flawed. I will fix me. I don't need you to fix me. I'm flawed, yes, but I am not flawed to the point where I have to accept less than. You understand? I'm not flawed to the point where I can just now tolerate and accept behavior that is less than. You understand? So, standing in your authentic space means to acknowledge that you are flawed, but you are perfectly flawed. You're perfectly flawed. Like, you are broken, but you're not defeated. I'm not broken. I'm broken, but I'm not defeated. I'm not on the ground like this damsel in distress. I just need somebody to come pick me up and make my life better. I'm broken. Yes, couple of divorces, couple of bad relationships. I'm broken. Absolutely. But I'm not defeated. I'm not defined by my brokenness. Right? That I have some insecurities. Yes, I have some insecurities. Man might ask you during the sit down, are you insecure? No, I'm not insecure. I'm strong in my spot. Nah, man. No. Say that you are insecure. You have some insecurities, but you're not insecure. You have things that you are insecure about, but that does not define the whole you. You yourself are not insecure. You have some insecurities because of past relationships, because of past disappointments, because of being let down so many times in your life. Yes, I have some insecurities. That's who I am. But I am not insecure. You understand? That I am vulnerable. Love is the greatest vulnerability. I'm vulnerable. But that doesn't mean that I'm not valuable. That doesn't mean that you can walk all over me. I'm vulnerable. Yes, I'm a woman. I'm vulnerable. I love hard. Yes, I have to let my guard down in order to enjoy my relationship. If a woman is sitting around waiting for a man men don't navigate with love. That's not how we navigate. That's not how our minds process. In relationships, men don't let love navigate the terrain. We have man logic. We function differently. Women, you navigate through love. Everything you do, how you cook, how you take care of your kids, how you service your husband, all of that is predicated on love. Men, we do things out of regimen. We do things out of structure. I'm a man. I'm supposed to get up and go to work. I'm a man. I'm supposed to fix this. I'm a man. I'm supposed to take the car and get it washed and change the oil. I'm a man. That's what men do. You understand? That's how we navigate our relationships. Women, everything that you do in your relationship is founded on love. And the moment everything that you're doing in your relationship is not sprinkled with love, then there's a problem. There's a problem. If you're not cooking with love, there's a problem. If you're not catering to your children with love, there's a problem. If you're not catering and servicing your husband out of love, then there's a problem. Because now it becomes routine. And as men, we know routine better than anybody. We pick up on that quick. We know when you're doing it out of routine. And we can sense it. We can feel it. You understand? Our entire lives is based upon routine. Mechanical movement from beginning to end. Yeah, there's some traces of love sprinkled in there somewhere. But most of what we do as men is because we believe that that's the right thing to do. That's the manly thing to do. You understand? But women, your whole relationship is predicated on love. And that starts with you loving yourself. You loving yourself. The moment you lose sight of that, man, you're done. Right? So you're flawed, but perfectly flawed. You're broken, but not defeated. You have some insecurities because of past hurts and disappointments, but you're not insecure. You are vulnerable, yet valuable. You're vulnerable, yet valuable. You still bring a lot to the table. And although you are unappreciated, you are a jewel of the highest magnitude, of the highest quality. As the Prophet ﷺ said to Zahir ibn Haram, I've used this hadith on so many occasions, where the Prophet ﷺ went to Zahir, who was a slave, who was eventually he was freed. And the Prophet ﷺ had a great deal of respect for him. And he walked up behind Zahir one day and he said jokingly, Man yashtari hadha al-abd, who will buy this slave? And Zahir, he said that if you mean me, O Messenger of Allah, latajiduni kasidan, that I'm worthless. Nobody will purchase me. That is that subconscious programming. I'm worthless. Latajiduni kasidan, you will find me worthless goods. And the Prophet ﷺ said to him, Bel anta indallahi ghalin. He said, no, to Allah you are priceless. To Allah you are priceless. What do you mean you're worthless? To Allah, people may see you as being worthless, but to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you are priceless. You understand? That's number one. Everyone got that? Number one, stand in your authentic truth. Own who you are. Own your flaws. Own your mistakes. Right? When Musa went back to Fir'aun to try to call him, to Islam, right? Very beautiful. Fir'aun tried to use the fact that Musa killed a man before. When Musa went back to him to tell him that he was a messenger of God, what did Fir'aun say? He said, وَفَعَلْتَ فِعْلَتَكَ الَّتِي فَعَلْتَ وَأَنْتَ مِنَ الضَّالِينَ. He said, and you're coming back to me to tell me that you're a prophet when I remember what you did. You killed this kid. You killed this guy. And Musa, he didn't deny that. Musa said, I did that. He said, first of all, my Lord has forgiven me for that. And I did that when I didn't know any better. He stood in his authentic space. Owning, yes, I did that. But I did that at a time when I didn't know any better. You understand? Musa he ain't trying to circumvent that criticism. He understood. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. He didn't try to circumvent that criticism. He stood in his authentic space. Yes, I did that, but I did that at a time when I didn't know any better. Number two, matters or ways that will help you reverse this mentality of believing that you deserve less is self-respect. Having respect for yourself as a woman, right? Our religion, as Muslims, our religion teaches us to respect ourselves, considering that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has honored us as human beings. God has honored you as a human being by just creating you in the way that he created you. That was an honor. Right? Allah says in the Quran in Surah number 17, ayat 70, وَلَقَدْ كَرَّمْنَا بَنِي آدَمَ وَحَمَلْنَاهُمْ فِي الْبَرِّ وَالْبَحْرِ وَرَزَقْنَاهُم مِّنَ الطَّيِّبَاتِ وَفَضَّلْنَاهُمْ عَلَى كَثِيرٍ مِّمَّنْ خَلَقْنَا تَفْضِيلًا. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that in this verse, he says that indeed we have honored the children of Adam. He didn't say Muslims, he said human beings. Human beings. He said, لَقَدْ كَرَّمْنَا بَنِي Adam, that we have indeed honored the children of Adam. So by virtue of the fact that you are a human being, that is a sign that God has honored you. God has honored you. Right? He said, and we have carried them in land and on sea, and we have provided them of the best things of the world, and we have favored them over much of the other forms of creation. We have favored you. God has favored you as a human being. He's given you intellect, right? He's created you perfectly. He didn't put our head where our stomach is or our arm where our ear is. He created us, molded us, perfectly. Fashioned us perfectly. And that is a sign that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has honored us. Allah has given you an intellect. For us in the Muslim community, God has given you an intellect. And the moment anyone tells you not to use your intellect, to just blindly follow, you are dishonoring yourself, dishonoring the honor that God has given you. Don't ever request from me to follow you blindly. I don't care who you are. Imam, Sheikh, Alama, Fulan, I don't care who you are. Don't ever ask me to dishonor myself by blindly following everything that you say to me because a sheikh said it or because this person said it or that. That is me dishonoring the intellect that God gave me. No, I won't do that. I'm sorry. And you have some people who do that, blindly follow. Person comes to you and says, this sheikh said this person said that, or don't listen to him or stay away from that. And you just blindly follow. You use 0% of your intellect. We only use a small percentage of our brains, but then when you blindly follow, you use even less than that. We use 10 to 15% of our brain, of our entire brain. That's what you use, the average human being, right? And then when you blind follow, you use even less than that because you're not even analyzing anything. You're not critically thinking about anything. Somebody tell you something and you just follow it. You're asking me to dishonor myself. I'm not going to do that, man. To blindly follow someone would mean to dishonor yourself. Sorry. And therefore, it's not permissible for us to dishonor what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has honored. To remove the veil of God's honor is to disarm yourself and make yourself susceptible to the vulturous nature, the vulturous elements that have destroyed the spirits of many women and have kept them in dark places about themselves for a long time. Many of you women have disarmed yourself when you allow a man to dishonor you. When you allow a man to dishonor you, when you remove the honor of God from yourself and you allow a man to begin to dictate to you your life decisions, he is dishonoring you because you have dishonored yourself. Respect yourself. You teach people how to treat you. Don't dishonor yourself, man. Respect yourself. All right. And in Islam, dishonoring yourself can be done in a number of ways. Number one, morally. All right. When Prophet Yusuf, in the story of Prophet Joseph, right, in the Quran, when he got caught in the room with the woman, she closed the door behind him, right, and she had him in a very vulnerable position. وقالت هيت لك قال معاذ الله إنه ربي أحسن مثواي إنه لا يفلح الظالمون. When she locked the door and she tried to seduce him, right there in that moment he was very vulnerable, but he stood on principle. He didn't dishonor himself and disrespect himself. He said, I can't do this with you. Your husband raised me. Self-respect. How could I dishonor the man who raised me in his home? I have too much respect for myself to do that. I have dignity. I have honor about myself. I can't do that. And we don't live in a time of honor, man. A person will cross you, man. We have children who we raise in our homes that get older and cross us, man. I was just in New Jersey last week, man, and a 16-year-old kid killed his mother, killed his father, killed his sister, and a family friend. You understand? This kid killed his mother, his father, his sister, and a family friend who just happened to be there visiting. Yusuf said, I can't do this. I can't do this. I have to have respect. I stand on principle. I stand on principle. All right. Number two, some people dishonor themselves by, lowering their standards. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says about the, about the Muslim woman and her wearing the hijab. Right? It's a matter of dignity and honor. Women say, well, I should be able to wear what I want to wear. Yeah, you can wear what you want to wear, but depending on what you wear will determine how people respect you. Do you think that you can wear whatever you want to wear and you're going to get or warrant the same level of respect from everybody because of what you wear? You don't think that what you wear is a reflection of who you are? You don't think that? You don't think as a woman that you can wear anything that you want to wear and you should still be able to walk into any environment and people are supposed to have the highest level of respect for you? You understand? Don't be self-delusional. How you dress, how you carry yourself is a reflection of yourself. It's a reflection of who you are and how you feel about yourself. If you talk about a young boy who wears his pants all the way down and his underwears are showing, is that an indication that this man has respect for himself? When people can see your underwears? So much so for a woman who wears jeans, who when she bends over, you can see the string from her thong around, you know what I mean? Like the whole entire world should not be able to see what type of underwears you have on. And then you have women say, well, I should be able to dress the way I want to. Yes, you can dress any way that you want to, but the way you dress will determine how people respond to you. Absolutely. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, Ya ayyuhan nabi kulli azwajika wa banatika wa nisa al-mu'minin yudnina alayhinna min jalabibihinna dhalika adna ay yu'rafna fala yu'dhain wa kana Allahu ghafurur rahima. Allah says about the ayat of hijab, He said, O Prophet, tell your wives, look how Allah started with His family, right? Because we like to, superimpose on everybody else and then start with us last. He said, tell your wives and your daughters, right, and the believing women that they should draw their veils over their bodies. Yudnina alayhinna min jalabibihinna, right? ذَلِكَ أَدْنَى أَن يُعْرَفْنَ فَلَا يُؤْذَيْنَ. This is so they will be known as respectable women. Respectable women. فَلَا يُؤْذَيْنَ. And they will not be disrespected. They will not be harmed. They'll be harmed in other ways in terms of, are you hot in that? Yeah, cool. That comes with the turf. That comes with the turf. You're doing something different, right? That comes with the turf. But we're talking about disrespect in terms of your morals, your morality. You will never have a woman, you know what I mean? You'll never have a woman wearing hijab where a person can't see anything underneath it and her be disrespected or her be considered as immoral. You understand? SubhanAllah, you have non-Muslim women who come to the mosque and want to hear, from with a friend, and they'll call the mosque and they'll say, should I dress modest? These are non-Muslim women who want to come to the mosque and benefit, right? And they ask, should they dress modestly? And then you have Muslim women who come in with tight jeans on, spandex on, with a hijab on, and the moment somebody says something to you, even if they approach you in the best possible manner, you walk away in your feelings because somebody tried to give you some advice. You got to be kidding me, man. You gotta be kidding me. So, and I put a post up on my Twitter page yesterday that we live in the age of victim. Everybody's a victim. Nothing is nobody's fault, right? This is the age that we live in. Nobody can be advised. No one can be critically critiqued, right? Anytime you say anything about anyone, it's a personal attack on them. Right? You come to the masjid with spandex on, tight jeans on. Sister comes to you and says, you know what? Maybe you should put on an overgarment, a hijab. Inshallah, I have one for you. And we walk away, in your feelings because somebody disrespected you. And then you go online, tweeting and, Facebooking about how you was disrespected. Nobody disrespected you, man. Nobody disrespected you because someone asked you to adorn yourself with the proper dress of a Muslimah, right? Somebody disrespected you. Nobody disrespected you. So now you're not coming back to the mosque. So now you don yourself as unmasked. You're not going back to the masjid because you don't want anybody telling you how to dress. Well, Allah told you, God told you how to dress. You have a problem with that too? God told you how to dress. You got a problem with that too? You probably do. You probably do. God told you how to dress. All we're doing is enforcing that. We're just, reinforcing that. We're just telling you, reminding you. You understand? And there's other ways that a person can disrespect themselves and religious principles, sacrificing religious principles. That's a form of disrespect, self-disrespect. Right? The Prophet ﷺ, he said in an authentic hadith, he said, "La yahkiranna ahadukum nafsa," that let none of you disrespect himself. Let none of you disrespect himself. So the Sahaba said, "Ya Rasulullah, kayfa yahkiru ahaduna nafsa?" One of the Sahaba said, "O Messenger of Allah, how does an individual disrespect himself? How does one disrespect himself?" The Prophet ﷺ, he said, قال يرى أمرا لله جل وعلا عليه فيه مقال ثم لا يقول فيه فيقول الله يوم القيامة له ما منعك أن تقول فيه كذا وكذا فيقول خشية الناس فيقول الله جل وعلا فإياي كنت أحق أن تخشى. The Prophet ﷺ, he said, let not one of you disrespect himself or dishonor himself. So the Sahaba said, "O Messenger of Allah, how does one dishonor himself or disrespect himself?" He said that you see something, that a matter in the religion that you should say something about, but you don't say anything about it. And then on the day of judgment, Allah will ask you, why didn't you say something about that? And the man will say, because I feared people. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will say, "Iyaya kunta ahaqqa an takhsha." I was more deserving of your fear than people were. I was more deserving. God is more deserving of your fear than people are. If you're going to fear someone, fear God. Right? If you're going to fear anyone, fear God. God is more deserving of your fear than human beings. So to disrespect yourself is to see something wrong and not say anything about it. Don't disrespect yourself. Right? And in relationships, by allowing yourself to be made to feel inferior. by another human being, right? When you respect yourself, you force others to deal with you based upon the perception that you have of yourself. When you respect yourself, you force others to deal with you accordingly. All right? You force others to deal with you accordingly. Number three from the ways to reverse this process. All right. For those of you that are on Periscope, inshallah, we're going to go to the last three, and then we'll Facebook Live cut off. Hopefully it'll cut back on in a few. But for right now, we'll finish up, inshallah ta'ala. Number three, from the things that will help reverse this process of, this mentality that some women have of believing that they are somehow supposed to accept less than, is the person's the person's perception of you doesn't have to be your reality. A person's perception of you does not have to be your reality. That's their perception. They don't see you as being valuable. They don't see you as being, worth anything. They don't see you as being this or that. That's their perception. Doesn't have to be your reality. You understand? And this is something that is taken from an incident that happened with the Prophet ﷺ when he was signing the peace treaty of Hudaybiyah, right? One of the chiefs of Quraysh, Suhail ibn Amr, he went to sign the peace treaty with the Prophet ﷺ. And in signing the peace treaty, the Prophet ﷺ wanted to write from Muhammad, the messenger of Allah. Min Muhammad ibn Hadha ma kataba alayhi Muhammad Rasulullah. He said, this is what Muhammad, the messenger of Allah, agrees to. And so Suhail ibn Amr, he said to the Prophet ﷺ, he said, Wallahi law kunna na'lam annaka Rasul, ما قتلناك وما صددناك عن البيت لكن اكتب من محمد ابن عبد الله كما كنت تكتب. He said, wait a minute. He said, we don't know you to be the messenger of God. We don't believe that you're the messenger of God. If we thought that you were the messenger of God, we wouldn't be fighting you. And we wouldn't stop you from making tawaf around the Kaaba. They refused to accept him as the messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And the Prophet ﷺ, he said, as the Sahaba, they were arguing, saying, no, we're going to write Muhammad, the messenger of Allah. And the Sahaba were arguing this point. And the Prophet ﷺ, he realized that at that point, that's their perception. It's not my reality. And he said, Wallahi inni la Rasulullah wa in kadhabtamuni. He said, Wallahi, he said, I swear to God, God knows I am his messenger, even if they refuse to acknowledge it. Even if they refuse to acknowledge it. And it's the same mentality that women have to have in their relationships. Even if the man refuses to see how priceless you are, refuses to see how valuable you are, refuses to see, what you bring to the table and being in a relationship with him, you don't have to accept that about yourself. You don't have to accept that. You can simply say to them, that is your perception, not my reality. I don't have to take your perception and make it my reality. And unfortunately, with some women, they do that. Unfortunately, with some women, they do that. They're in a relationship with a man who doesn't value them, who doesn't respect them, who doesn't, treat them the way that they that they feel that they should be treated, right? And then they begin to act accordingly. They begin to acquiesce and begin to act like they are undeserving of, being treated right in a relationship. That's that person's perception. Doesn't have to be your reality, right? It's that person's perception of you. Doesn't have to be your reality. All right. The Prophet ﷺ, he said, Wallahi inni la Rasulullah wa in kadhabtamuni. He said, I swear to God, I swear by Allah, Allah knows that I am his prophet, even if they refuse to acknowledge it. Even if they refuse to acknowledge him. All right. So just because a man doesn't see your worth doesn't mean that you are worthless, and doesn't mean that you have to act like you are worthless. All right. Don't be a human doormat. Right? Don't let the person walk over top of you. Right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says in the Quran, in Surah Al-Ra'd, Surah number 13, ayat 43, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَيَقُولُ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا لَسْتَ مُرْسَلًا قُلْ كَفَى بِاللَّهِ شَهِيدًا بَيْنِي وَبَيْنَكُمْ وَمَنْ عِنْدَهُ عِلْمُ الْكِتَابِ. And those who disbelieve, they say that you are not a messenger. وَيَقُولُ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا لَسْتَ مُرْسَلًا. All right? People are going to say a lot of things about you. People are going to say you're not this, you're not handsome, you're not beautiful, you're not this, you're not Salafi, you're not this, you're not that, you're not knowledgeable, you're not this. People are going to say tons of things about you. But that person's perception of you does not have to be your reality. They said, وَيَقُولُ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا لَسْتَ مُرْسَلًا. And those who disbelieve say, O Muhammad, that you are not a prophet. What am I going to do? Am I going to just act like I'm not a prophet because that's what they believe? I'm going to act like I'm not a prophet because that's what they believe? I'm going to act like I'm not Salafi because that's what they say and that's what they believe? I'm going to act like I'm not beautiful because that's what they say, that's what they believe? I'm going to act like I don't mean anything, that I don't matter because that's what they believe and that's what they think? La wallahi. La wallahi. That's not how it works. That's not how it works. So, it's important for us, not to adopt, the mentality of other people. Give me 1 second. Yeah, it cut off because my phone died. So we're going to try to fix the problem. Okay, so going back to point number 3 and helping to reverse this mentality that unfortunately many women have been, stuck in, believing that they deserve less, is that the other person's perception does not have to be your reality, right? The person's perception of you does not have to be your reality. All right. You don't have to accept that the fact that the person believes that you are not deserving, or the person believes that you're this or you're that. You don't have to accept that. You don't have to accept that. And as I said, the Prophet ﷺ, he told them when they refused to accept him as Muhammad, the messenger of Allah, they said, right, Muhammad, the son of Abdullah. And the Prophet ﷺ, he said, Allah, you know that I am your prophet, even if they refuse to accept it. Even if they refuse. Even if they refuse to accept it, you know indeed that I am your prophet. All right. So just because a person doesn't accept that from you doesn't mean that you have to accept it. Number four is that a man will interact with you as a woman based upon the bar that you set for him. A man will interact with you as a woman based upon the bar that you've set for them. All right. You teach people how to treat you. Right? You teach as a woman, you teach your husband, you teach your spouse, you teach your significant other how to treat you. You teach them that. You give them the manual. We don't, as human beings, we don't come with a manual. When we marry someone, we get into a relationship with someone, we don't come with a manual. So you have to give the person OJT. You got to give them on-the-job training. So when you're in a relationship with someone, you're basically giving them on-the-job training. You're teaching them how you want to be treated. But if you are a passenger in your own journey, if you're a passenger in the car of your own relationship journey, then of course the person is going to go in whatever direction they want to go. Stop being a passenger in your own seat, in your own car, in your own journey to happiness. Stop letting other people dictate to you what's going to make you happy. You teach the person what is going to make you happy. You teach the person how to treat you. Don't just think that because you're married to a person that a person is, automatically going to treat you the way that you want to be treated. If you come into a relationship with someone, you're basically teaching the person, this is the way that you treat me. You don't disrespect me. You don't talk to me any type of way you want to. You don't do this for me. You open doors for me. You close doors for me. You carry my bags. You do this. You teach the man that this is the way that I want to be treated. But if you're just coasting along on airplane mode in your own relationship, how can you expect someone to automatically know how to treat you? As men, we come from different walks of life. We don't always know how to treat a woman. Women say, well, you're a man, you should know how to treat a woman. In what world? Where did I learn how to treat a woman? And every woman is different. Perhaps the last woman that I was with, the last wife that I was with, wanted a different type of treatment than what you want. There's no one-size-fits-all method for how you treat women. Every woman wants to be treated differently in their relationship. And who's the better person to teach you that than you as the woman? What a better way for anyone to teach them how to treat you than for you to teach them that? You teach the person how you want to be treated. Allah says in the Quran, إِنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يُغَيِّرُ مَا بِقَوْمٍ حَتَّى يُغَيِّرُ مَا بِأَنفُسِهِمْ. That Allah will not change the condition of a people until at first they change what is within themselves. That your outside condition is not going to change until you change. You change this mentality of believing that you should just accept any type of treatment that a man is giving you in your relationship. You have to change that mentality. No more. It's 2018. No more. You no longer get to treat me the way you want to treat me. From this point forward, I will teach you how I want you to treat me. I will teach you how I want you to treat me. And if I give you something that is above your pay grade, I give you something that is above what you can handle, then I'll slowly walk you through that until you get it. But I'm no longer a passenger in my own relationship. I'm no longer a passenger in my own relationship. I'm sorry. You don't get to just treat me the way that you want to treat me because it's easy for you, or this is what you have been trained to do. Men are trained by women. So when we're in a relationship with a woman, right, she trained us how to treat her. When we leave that relationship and move on to another relationship, or even worse in polygyny, right? When you marry another woman, you've already been trained by one woman. So now when you go into a relationship with another woman, you have to be retrained, right? You have to be recalibrated, right? And being retrained, we have to understand that, in being retrained, we have to understand that every woman is different, and every woman expects something different from the relationship. All right. So from the very beginning of the relationship, you teach people how you want to be treated. So if a man is treating you in a way that is devaluing, then you have to look at the part that you played in allowing him to do that. Why did he feel comfortable devaluing you? Why did he feel comfortable disrespecting you? Why does he feel comfortable doing this? And you have to ask yourself, what part did I play in allowing him to feel comfortable to do that? If your husband is verbally abusive towards you, what part did you play in allowing him to think that that was okay? What part did you play in that? You teach people how to treat you. Don't be a human doormat, just letting people walk over top of you, right? You have to take charge in the way that you are being treated. The Prophet ﷺ, a man came to him complaining about, the harm that he was receiving from his neighbor. And the Prophet ﷺ told him, take your things and throw them out in the street. Take your things and throw them out in the middle of the street. So people started walking by, seeing his stuff in the street, and asked him, why are your things in the street? And the man said, well, the Prophet ﷺ told me to throw them in the street because my neighbor was harming me. And so people begin to curse his neighbor. You're a bad guy, may Allah curse you, or whatever. And the neighbor went to the Prophet ﷺ and said, people are cursing me. The Prophet said, Allah cursed you even before the people cursed you. Allah cursed you even before the people cursed you. And then the man said, realizing that he had done something wrong, he said, I will never go back to treat my neighbor like that again. And the Prophet told the other guy, put your things back in your house. He took control of the situation. He didn't just sit there and allow the man to treat him any way he wanted to. He took control of the situation. So you teach people how you want to be treated. And a man will interact with you based upon the bar that you have set for them. Number 5, and this is the last one, no matter what you do, you can never please everyone. Everyone is not going to be pleased with you. So that means that you have to be pleasing to yourself. You have to please yourself. That's not an arrogant statement. That's not, teetering along the lines of arrogance. That's just being realistic that no matter what you do, people are always going to find a flaw in you. Your spouse is always going to find a flaw in you. So where does that leave you? How do you handle that situation? You have to learn how to please God. And if the other people are not pleased with you, then there's really not much that you can do about that. Abdullah ibn Mubarak, rahimahullah ta'ala, one of the great scholars of Islam, he said, رِضَى النَّاسِ غَايَةٌ لَن تُدْرَكْ وَرِضَى اللَّهِ غَايَةٌ تُدْرَكْ. Pleasing people is a goal that you can never achieve, while pleasing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is a goal that you can always achieve. You can always please God. God doesn't expect a lot from us as human beings, but the human beings, we have unrealistic expectations of one another. So sometimes you're in a relationship with a man and his expectations of you are unrealistic, and you're never going to be able to meet his expectations the way that he would like you to. Therefore, you make your goal to please God, and if you fall short as it relates to human beings, then I'm a human too, so I'm going to fall short. But if you make your goal in life to please everybody, to make everybody happy with you, and then basically your reality is fashioned and shaped based upon how people view you, then you're going to always end up disappointed. Always. You're going to always end up disappointed. You have to understand that your goal in life is to please God. Primary. Secondary, if we can get some friends along the way, if we can get some people that genuinely love us along the way because they respect and they value who we are as human beings, then alhamdulillah, that's khair ala khair, that's good on top of good. But if we can't manage to get people to like us, but I'm all right with God, then that's the most important relationship to me. All right. And the Prophet ﷺ, he said, "Man arada an-nas bi sakhatillah, sakhatallahu alayhi wa askhata alayhi an-nas." He said, whoever seeks to please people at the expense of angering God, then God will be angry with him. Allah will be angry with them and make the anger of turn the anger of the people towards him. But whoever seeks to please Allah at the expense of angering the people, kafallahu subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah will suffice him. He will not need the people. He will not be in need of people. So number 5, to help reverse this mentality, is to understand that your primary purpose in life is not to please human beings, but to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And if we can gain some people, some genuine friends along the way in our pursuit of that, then alhamdulillah, that's good. Of us, those unrealistic expectations are never going to be met. And we're going to always, if we identify our self-worth through how other people feel about us, you're going to always be disappointed. You're going to always feel worthless. You're going to always feel less than, and you're going to always feel like you are, destined to accept that type of behavior. This is what I wanted to present. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best. Wa sallallahu ala nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam tasliman kathira. Wa akhiru da'wana anil hamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Inshallah, I'm going to turn it off and open it back up for questions and answers, inshallah.